Hey guys, sorry for the extra time that's taken. Just getting some documents set up. I know I should have done this earlier. Woke up a little late today. Alright, welcome back everyone. We are on day 4 of the modding stream, so we have some fun stuff today. Most notably, we are actually going to be starting with creating an affix. And then we are going to be getting into encounters. Those are pretty easy to understand, but they're obviously a very important and integral part of Darkest Dungeon. And finally, we'll be getting into camping skills, which are very similar to other mechanics in the game, but there are some specific things that need to be remembered concerning them. So welcome back, everyone. Thank you for showing up. We don't have any modding assets today, which is good. Earliest that we might have some new assets to give out. Actually, I don't think we'll have any more assets. Well, I might give you some lore. I don't know. Or you can just write it yourself. It's not going to be too necessary. If anything, I'll let you know on that day, since I generally get the streams ready, usually the night before, the day before. The first thing that we're going to do is be getting into the affixes, and if you've never played PBD, which I would say that most of you probably have not, affixes are this mechanic in Pitch Black Dungeon where you fight the same enemies but with modifiers to them, similar to games like Diablo or Path of Exile, where enemies will be of the same type but have modifiers that change the way they act, the things they do, their AI, what they drop, etc., etc. The first one we're going to be working on is the Affix Royal, which, let me pop open my Google Sheet with our encounters on it. So I created this this spreadsheet for Pitch Black Dungeon so that I could accurately keep track of and create the encounters and enemies for PBD. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to come to this tab here, Affix Info. And this has all of the affixes that are in PBD at the moment. The first one we're going to create is Royal, which, as you can see right on line 43 here, you can see all of the stats that it modifies and any additional notes. So you can see right here, the affix description is increased loot drops, plus 20% maximum health, plus 5% critical chance, and plus 25% damage. So this is very obviously a tough affix. This is meant to increase the difficulty. Obviously, if we were to put this on a Brigand Cutthroat, he would not only have more health, higher crit chance, and more damage, but he'd also have increased loot drops. And that's not very clear, but I can tell you that what this does is it adds an additional loot table, which we already know how to create and assign to enemies, and it, whenever that enemy is killed, it drops more loot. So to demonstrate what this is actually going to look like in game, how about we check it out in PBD? Let me come over here, open up Let me see where it is first. Should be in here. So here's my working build of Crimson Court and PvD at the moment. We're gonna come back to the spreadsheet. We're gonna check out on my enemy difficulties tab. We're just gonna check for a royal enemy right here. Royal Brigand Fusilier, tier 1, as we can see. Brigand Fusilier E. So we can actually just directly copy that. Back to our folder, create a monster, press OK. Should load up Darkest Dungeon here with our royal enemy from PvD spawning. And we can take a look at what it looks like in game. And we're going to try to replicate that, but with a different enemy. With a skeleton soldier, to be more accurate. This is the first time loading today, so it might take a couple seconds here while it caches all the info. And while it's doing that, I have lowered the stream quality today to 1366 by 768. There were reports that the audio might have issues if trying to stream at 1080. I didn't think that would be the problem. If it happens again, I have another possible solution to that. But only let me know if it happens. Alright. So here, I'm going to mute it because it's loud as hell for me at the moment. There we go. Forget those. But we can see right in game here, we have the Royal Fusilier. Now, this doesn't automatically show up the name here. You know, you can see in that golden kind of tint, it says Royal Brigand Fusilier. It doesn't normally show up. What that is actually a string that we're going to be creating that allows us to modify the colors within a string. And that can be used to incredible effect. I mean, even here we can see that it's used to change the color of like the Plague Doctor's name, actually the name for all, name for their resolve level, and it's used, of course, to change things like you can see the stun chance on Stunning Blow. But if we compare this with the stats of a normal Fusilier, and it's obviously going to be a little difficult to see considering we don't have any baseline. Fix that pretty easily though by coming in here and doing Brigand Fusilier A, which will spawn just a normal apprentice Fusilier next to the Royal. And we'll immediately be able to see that it has higher health. Crit chance and damage, of course, will not be as noticeable. You instantly see that not only does it have the normal name, but it has 15 health compared to 18. So we know that this affix is working, of course, and if we were to kill it, which shouldn't be too hard here, speed up the game a little bit, just so we can quickly dispatch of these. Rushed Overload, of course, if you're familiar with E. We can see that dropped 75 gold and slippery boots, which if you're playing vanilla, that's going to be very, very low. But if you're playing PvD, that's obviously going to be those slippery boots would be part of the royal loot table. And we can see that loot by coming in here and checking out our loot. I named it quite simply Royal. We can see right here, Royal has a chance to pull from gem table, the supply table, the trinket table, or the potion table. So we know that that trinket was definitely from the royal enemy. So we're going to be replicating that in a very similar way. Of course, we don't have potions to deal with in our mod. Well, we do have potions, but we're not going to be attributing the royal affix to drop any of it. So what we're going to be doing is actually creating the we're going to come back to here so we know exactly what to change in the values, as we can see here. We're going to open up our mod, and we don't have any monster changes yet. We don't have the monster folder. We can simply create it. What we're going to do is we're going to pop into vanilla here. We're going to find the skeleton soldiers, which are the skeleton militia in the files. I'm going to create the monsters folder and paste all of the malicious files in here, but we don't need all of it. Of course, we don't need the art at all, so we can delete the animation and effects folders. And we don't want to be modifying the apprentice, veteran, and champ versions, of course. We want those to still exist. Affixes are simply kind of subtypes of the original enemies. We could replace them, of course, by simply putting our affix over A, B, and C, and we wouldn't actually have to touch anything in game. But we don't want to do that. We want these to still exist. So we're going to actually copy and paste. And we're going to name them D, E, F. And now what we have is we have an apprentice, vet, and champ copy. Up here we have A, B, and C for normal, and these will be D and F for our new affix. We have to come in here and we have to rename just these two files. And you do want to keep that tint PNG because that controls the coloring. If you get rid of that, it will look very weird. I know that because I did that on accident with an old version of PPD. Didn't think they were useful, turned out they were. So as these stand, if we just open up D and we open up A as well, these are going to be completely the same. There's nothing actually telling the game that this is an affix, and we kind of have to trick it because an affix isn't a file telling certain enemies how to change. An affix is actually a completely new enemy. So all those 600 plus variants in PBD are actually simply just they're actually just completely new enemies. So we can see all the cutthroats. We have all of our affixes are completely new enemies. Same with Fusilier and stuff. So we need to be recreating that in our mod. So first thing I want to do is actually create the string so that when we get them set up, we can see them. We can see the changes. So we're going to come into our string table. And let's, on this new section that we have, let's just put enemies. And I'm going to press enter. We don't actually know what to put there yet, so let's come back to our let's keep this up over on the left here. Watching it. There we go. Alright, I'm going to keep that up over there, and I'm going to keep our mod. So I'm going to open up the localization again, but this time we're looking for the, I know they just changed these, didn't they? I think they put them in miscellaneous, didn't they? That's actually a good thing to show off, is that if you're familiar with anything before a very recent update, the localization files were named pretty standardly. You had, you know, your actors, which were like hero stuff, your dialogue, heroes, journals, monsters. So all the monster skill names and all that were in here, compared to the changes, which I have no familiarity with. They kind of, what am I looking for? Just lost it. They changed all of the localization around. So I think they put them all in miscellaneous now. Let's see. which to be honest I don't really like because they sorted this alphabetically. Let me search for Fusilier. It's on the mind. Alright, they did put them all in here. So first thing we need to see is that for things like the Fusilier, which we just jumped to, we can see how they're set up. str underscore monster name underscore, and then the monster ID. And then what the player is going to see. So I'm just going to copy these three and paste them here. And we're going to get rid of the monster name ID because we're going to have different ones, of course. These are not brigands at all. These are skeletons. Perfect. I'm just going to save that. And then we're going to come into PBD's files. And we're going to just take a look at what I have done for my monsters. So we saw those affixes in game, and I'm gonna pop down to the Fusilier actually because that's what we tested it on. And you can see that we don't just have the name here, we also have this color start, and then PPD affix name. Well, we've actually already made colors, and what this allows us to do is assign colors to certain sections of a string. Simply where the color starts, what the color is, and then when the color should end. We do this right after each section, showing off the affix. So let's open up our mod's colors again. They're over here on my left. And we only have one color. But we can simply create another one and make it the same color that we've given to the affixes in PB. I'm going to show that for you if you want to copy it. It should be right up at the top here. Affix name is RGB 9 lowercase b, 8 lowercase b, and then 11. And that's the one that I'm simply going to copy. I'm going to put a space just to keep them separated. Make them uniform. But I'm going to call this our mod affix name. You can name it whatever. Again, these IDs aren't going to be seen by the player. It's just up to you if you want to make this. So we're going to come back over to the here's the monster string. So we're going to look for skeleton militia, and we can see we have bone soldier, bone veteran, and bone sergeant. I'm actually going to copy these three instead of the Fusilier. Just going to make it here. We're going to simply name this D, E, and F, because the strings already exist for the other bone soldiers, but not for our new ones that exist. And we need to tell the game that there are strings that exist, and these are them. But these are each going to be royal, because these are our new affix. So much like we saw in PBD, we're going to put two more brackets. These aren't brackets. Brackets look like this. Whatever those are called that I'm just totally blanking on, that's what they are. And we'll call it royal, and then put a space. And that way we can see in-game that these are royal skeleton soldiers. Then we're going to come back over to VDs, and we're simply going to copy the color start, paste it, and then the color end as well. You can type those out though, not a big deal. But of course, for the color, we're actually going to put our new color. And then I'm going to copy that and put it after each one. As you can see here, we now have our 3 new strings for our 3 new enemies. And they are saved. Of course, let's put yet another comment on the bottom here. That is not the... Go. And I'm going to copy all of this again, not the language. And I'm going to paste it for each of our languages. Surprised you don't get more viewers. It's pretty interesting for me. Well, thank you. I don't think some people know about it. I only advertised it once outside of my Discord. But I think there are a lot of people that are watching it on YouTube as well that can't catch it. I mean, it's fair to say that there are a lot of people who might be at work at the moment that can't. I'm glad you're finding it interesting. I hope I'm being helpful, not a very good teacher of things. But I'm just kind of explaining what goes through my head and the way that I approach modding. Thankfully, I have a bit of experience with it. So we can take this, we can just minimize this. We might come back to some of those files later, but for now, I want to open up our mod here. This isn't showing in details, is beyond me. And we're going to open up the vanilla game. Of course, this is not the vanilla game, this is actually the modded game. Which I'm actually going to change it to that. Hopefully that doesn't. Okay. This has to do a recheck for all the files that are changed. That doesn't matter. We're going to come in here. We're going to copy and paste our 3 changed folders in here. I'm going to run the localization batch again because we do have new strings. And we're going to come to create monster, and we're actually just going to load up one of our skeleton militia D. And if you know, that is our apprentice version of the royal soldier. We haven't changed any of the stats or done any of the actual affix work. We've just changed the string, and I want to make sure that the string is actually changed. So this will load us up into a fight. By the way, you all have access to the create monsters script. You can use that to test new affixes or enemies or whatever you're working on. You can use that to quickly load up into a dungeon with our changed soldier. You can see the string taking effect, which is wonderful. But we now need to actually change the stats of him. I'm going to come up here, and we're going to keep this in the background while we work on our soldier, which should be open, right? That's changed. Oh, that's just the... Alright, so we have the first skeleton militia here, skeleton militia D. And I'm going to keep this up in the background as we change. The first thing we need to do is multiply. As you can see, the little star there, little asterisk means that it's multiply by 1.2. So he has 10 health. I don't have to do the math for that. This is simply going to be 12. Thankfully, that's very easy calculation. Next up, we have plus 5% crit and plus 25%. Now, the crit is simply additive for my affixes that I do. It's not multiplicative. So for each of his abilities, this is not crit valid, as we can see, so there's no point changing the crit. We can change this to 1,000 and still it will never crit. This is, so we change the crit to 11. Alright, very easy. And damage is multiplicative. It says plus 25%, it just means multiply by 1. So so for Royal, it's really going to be up to you if you want to round up or down. Personally, with Royal, although I think with most affixes, I just prefer to round down. Because this is already going to be hitting like a truck. We can see here with 11% crit and 8% maximum damage. Already, that's pretty nasty. We can come in here and just multiply this by 1.25. And we'll round down to 13. That'll be safe. And this will probably just be... As for 2, I'm not going to round that. 5, though, we can simply do that as 6. And I mean, that's pretty much Royal. That's pretty much all it is. There's no special new abilities. It says, you know, it's empty, no new AI, there's no new effects. But there is a loot table. That's very simple though. We'll get to that in a second. Of course, there are much more complex affixes, which we'll be getting into later. But Royal is very simple. It's simply stat changes, much like Hexproof, which is simply set debuff resistance to 300. So these ones are very simple and easy to implement. Not a lot of work behind them, but they are, of course, very meaningful. Even simple affixes can make the game much more interesting. We're going to come in and we're going to do this for each of our new ones, because we've only adjusted the Apprentice version, but we need to adjust the Champ, or the Vet and Champ versions. So we'll come in here and we'll do quick 15 times 1.2. Simply 18, no need to round there. 1, 25. Crit, remember, these are both crit invalid, so we don't need to adjust those. But this will be 16 and this will be 17. Right, now let's adjust the damage. So this will again just be 4, be about 7. Nothing wrong with the mic, it makes a very loud clicking noise. Still doing that. Yeah, I do apologize, that's most likely OBS. I have to kind of look into that. I think it might also be because my mic is attached to a USB hub, though it has never given me an issue before. It is apparently giving me one. Do that for next stream, just because I don't want to unplug my mic. Potentially not have it work. But thank you for telling me that it is still happening. It could also be just be the OBS version. There really isn't any reason it should be happening. It might just be an OBS issue with this current version. I do apologize. I don't want it to happen. I know it's loud and annoying because there's a big streamer that used to have that issue. Alright, so we've got all the damage values changed. Everything looks good. We have the adjusted HPs, the adjusted damage, and the adjusted crit. That all looks perfect. But last thing we need to do is, of course, if you remember, Royal adds a new loot table. And we're just going to be making that ourselves. It's not going to be a copy of what PBD does, of course, because PBD is a very different mod. So we're going to open up our loot. And I'm just going to copy just the one that's on the bottom. We're going to call this Affix Royal. And we're just going to delete what's there. So we're going to be adding some things to it. But for now, we can come into our enemies and we copy this loot code here. We're simply going to be giving them our loot table. I don't think I went over enemies. I was supposed to. I know I have a stream overview that I write up and I'm supposed to follow, but I never follow it exactly because I'm quite simply just very forgetful. But you can see here, enemies are very simple to adjust. All their data is comprised within a single file. Of course, Skeleton Soldier is much less complex than, say, you know, something like a boss. He only has 2 attacks. His resistances are very much in line with something like you would see on a hero. You know, it's very simple to understand the values here. There's nothing really too complex. Display size is how many slots it takes up. You could set that to 4, and a stupid Skeleton Soldier would take up 4 slots. The enemy types as their IDs. You can add multiple types. Personality, to be honest, I've never known if this is actually still used. I don't think it does anything. I think it was originally intended to be like part of their AI, but it's no longer used. For over 2 years though, I've never ever understood if that's still used. And I don't think it is. Because the enemy AI has become much more complex. And their AI IDs are right here. We aren't going to be getting into AI yet, but we will. Let me see the day that we're getting into AI. Stream 6. Actually, stream 5. Enemy. So we'll be getting more into detail with stream 6 and 7. And of course, death class is whether it should turn into a corpse, and whether it's valid on a crit. Of course, no enemies in the game have valid corpses on crits at the moment. And then there are battle modifiers, like should it disable the stall penalty. You usually do that for really high prot enemies, or bosses. Of course, you don't want to have a stall penalty on a boss. Whether the monster can surprise, whether it can be surprised, and whether it always surprises or is always surprised. And things like are always surprised are like the Shambler. The Shambler always surprises you, of course. We'll be getting more into detail of enemies. For now, we just want to do some quick modifications to stats and an additional loot table. So these are all set up. We still have to set up the loot table, but we can close these enemies. These are actually all good. And our strings are all good. We don't need PBD strings. Our color is done. We don't need PBD's colors, so we're just working on the loot. Now, I think for an affix, for this affix specifically, I want to make it drop some additional tables. So I'm going to come up here and just copy this table so I don't have to write it out. And I think I'm going to give it a chance between tables. Thank you for doing streams, Shelby. Well, no problem. I'm very happy to do them. I've been meaning to do them for a long time, but I've been very busy with things like modding to be able to take the time to do them. Now that I'm retired, much more time. So I want the affix variable to have an equal chance. Remember, the chance for a specific occurrence on a loot table is that chance over the sum of all chances in the table. So setting these each to 1 gives each a 25% chance. And I want to give it a chance between trinkets, which of course is T, heirlooms, which is H, supplies, which is S, and G. And you want, even for good measure, I'm going to throw in some additional gold. And that way when it dies, it'll have a 20% chance now, you remember, to drop any one of these things. And we can see that it's working if we... Well, we could spike one of these values up to test, but I don't think it's going to be too necessary. Right now, let's come in here. And what did we change between now and then? We changed the monsters and our loot. Let's come over to the vanilla game. Right here. Modded game, we could say. Let's paste these and let's load up. Let's do a full... Well, let's do 2 of them. Let's fight 2 of our new affixes and see if they look good and if they drop some additional loot.
Pace out the halls of your lineage once familiar. Now,
I gotta turn on the audio here. I'm gonna speed up the game. Of course, again, I can't share stuff like being able to speed up the game. You could do that with like cheat engine or something. But for the most part, you will just be playing it at normal speed. We have to speed it up though. Otherwise, we'll be sitting here for a day and a half playing through some combats, and I don't. Thank you, Abomination, for missing. All right, so they died, and we can see that it immediately dropped not only 500 gold and some gems, but we got some heirlooms and some bandages. So it's definitely more loot than what you would normally obtain from 2 skeleton soldiers. Definitely more loot. So we can see it's working, which is fantastic. We overwrite these our mod game. Just want to make sure those aren't showing up on our. Okay, there. Good. So our affix royal is completely done. That's actually, I mean, that's all it takes to implement affixes. That's a very easy one to implement, and we only did, 3 enemies technically, so that wasn't too bad. And like I said, we're gonna have definitely more days of doing affixes. If you come over here, we've been keeping track of our schedule. We are going to, on Friday, be working on the inspirational affix, which is a bit more complicated. Then we're going to be working on Charming Stream 6. That is going to need new AI and a new ability. That's going to be pretty tough. And then Martyrdom, which is one of my newer affixes, is going to need a little bit more complex AI and a new skill as well. And we'll be working more on AI and enemies as well on Friday with a new enemy and then a new boss. And all these are going to be used. We're going to be using these affixes in our new map that we're going to create on the final 2 streams. So that completes it for affixes. Let's minimize this and let's commit all of our changes. We're going to use this. I'm going to use that spreadsheet again, actually, so I'm going to keep it open. Let's commit our changes, though. I'm just going to put skeleton, militia, royal affix. And remember to select all because we have a lot of new files here. And we're just going to press OK and commit them. And we are at revision 10. We are all updated with our new affix. So next thing we're going to be working on is encounters. And these are quite simply the encounters that you happen upon in dungeons. They can be anything like the bosses or just, a group of spiders if you want. These are all kept within dungeons. And then we're going to be working on the crypts ones. And in MASH 1, 3, and 5 are going to be the ones we're going to be concerned about. Let me switch this to details for the moment. 2 and 5 are not, or 2 and 4 are not used. If you remember one of my previous streams, I said that they had originally planned on there being 5 difficulties, and they decided early on in development that there would only be 3 difficulties. So if you open up one of these, you'll instantly see a pretty easy to parse file. And I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to quickly separate some notable sections. So you can see here we have the sections with hall, room, boss, stall, named, and trap. Though for this case, we're going to ignore trapped. We're only going to be worrying about really hall and room at the moment. Much like our loot tables, the chances for these encounters to appear is simply the chance for a single encounter over the sum of all chances in that section. So if we were to get the sum of all the hall ones, it would be 2 over whatever that equaled. And that would be the chance for these 2 skeleton rabble to appear. And quite simply, the way that these appear in the file are the ways that they'll appear in game. What I mean is if we just simply copy this back to our modded game, create monster, we're just going to paste this entire encounter in. Remember up here it starts skeleton rabble, militia, courtier, and arbalist. And in the game we should see rabble, militia, courtier, and arbalist. Right in order. So you don't want to put them backwards like we would with heroes, because of course heroes, this would be rank 1, this would be rank 2, 3, and 4. With enemies it's the opposite. This is rank 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I show that on my my guide. We're gonna see here. On the guide that Red Hook made, I put in a section right with a nice little image denoting the ranks for mashes. Is what these are called. That's always good to keep in mind just in case. You of course don't want to do it backwards and end up with your backliners in the front and your frontliners in the back. That would not be good. But editing mashes is very, very easy because there's nothing else you need to do if you want to add a new mash than coming in here, copying, and just putting in the enemies you want, right? So we have these new militia that we have, and we want them to appear in hall battles and room battles both, I would say. So if we come in here, we just mark all of the current militia. We can see that they mostly appear in rooms. And some in hallways. And they all appear to have relatively similar chances to show up. So we're going to copy some of these. I'm just going to copy a couple of them. We're going to put them below there. No, we're not. This is the wrong file. We actually want working files. Don't do what I just did. Let's come in here and let's copy Crypt's Dungeon. Always make sure that you're working on your modded files. Stupid. Accidentally copied those. And we can probably delete all the other ones at the moment. Sort this by details. Now we don't want these to overwrite vanilla files, remember? And thankfully, with the changes made in the DLC, we now have access to creating additional mashes. And we can emulate that simply by typing in our mod, just for consistency, .crypts.additional .mash. And it's kind of a mouthful, of course, but that is the new way to create additional mashes. So I'm just going to come in here and copy and paste this for each of them, except changing the number to reflect the difficulty. And we should be good. I'm going to come in here again, and we're going to bookmark each of the militia. We're going to do that in all of these. Remember, they change, all the letters change based on the difficulty. It's a very easy way in the files to tell what difficulty you're working on. So these are all B, so of course we need to search for B, and here we need to search for C. And I'm going to come down here. I'm going to copy probably 3 in each area. I would do more, but they can be, they can be time consuming to change, and I don't want to spend this whole stream working on mashes. Let's do 2 in each section. And I'm going to get rid of everything else. I simply want 2 sets of mashes to work on. And we'll do the same here. These are actually almost exactly the same. That's okay. Actually, I'm going to make it a little bit easier on us. And the hallways can probably remain the same. Well, actually, we'll do this. We'll copy these 2. That, and we'll do this one. It's entirely up to you what you want to change for these. And of course, realistically, you would do multiple in a section, similar to how my Crypts T1, you can see we search for skeleton D, we have multiple instances of this occurring throughout the entire area. And these are actually royal bone soldiers in PvD. You won't see as many in the apprentice crypts, but you'll see more and more as you get up in difficulty, as our tier calcs show. 5 royal enemies in T1 crypts, 6 down here. That is, of course, wrong because there is actually an enemy called Bone Royalty. So that's why. So there's going to be 10. It's minus 90. Unfortunately, the only problem with the names coinciding with affixes. So now we need 2 in the champion. Let's do some cultists. And we'll do one of these. Very good. And we'll do some more cultists, and then maybe one with a standard. And just to keep things even. Alright, perfect. So we have 4 mashes in each of the difficulties that we can now adjust with our new affix. And it's going to be as simple as coming in here. We don't have any other affixes at the moment, and we don't really want to interchange affixes since this is vanilla, and it's going to be a little bit more, easier than PBD, but also tougher in some ways. Remember, this is not going to be D because this is veteran. We actually want this to be in line with the other difficulties. So this is going to be E. And this is going to be F. And that's it. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. And if we wanted to even pull up one of these champion, actually need to copy this in. Where's the modded game? Let's copy in this new mash. And this should be the standard bearer with the arbalist, a defender, and new royal champion, bone soldier. Which of course is much too difficult for apprentice to fight, but we can see it's working perfectly. Yep, looks perfect. And that's as simple as it is to create mashes. Mashes are very, very easy, but they can be difficult to manage, of course, especially if you're adding in tons and tons of new ones, like PBD does. I ran into that issue myself. It was very difficult to keep track of all of the affixes that I would add in. And these contain multiple affixes in each area. So I created a simple spreadsheet to help with that, which I actually already closed. Now this affix, or this spreadsheet is publicly available. There should be a post in my Discord for it. If not, I can provide it after the stream, but you can make a copy and edit this and use it yourself to create all of your mashes. If you're working on a big mod, it's very, very easy. You can simply come in here and change a line to be what you want, and it will make the adjustments, calculate the difficulty in the raw difficulty here, give you the tiers, and it pulls all the information from one giant sheet, controlling all of the difficulties, the affix that it's assigned to, and name. It's a very, very simple and easy way to make quick adjustments to mashes and keep track of all of the difficulties for an encounter. So like you can see down here, with the Fallen Grave Robber in PBD, you have an encounter consisting of a Bone Soldier, Damnable Bone Spearman, Fallen Grave Robber, and Shape-Shifting Bone Courtier. And when you want to implement it, you simply can copy all of these because it calculates exactly what it should look like. And in your mash file, you would just paste it. You'd have all of your encounters. This spreadsheet took me a long time to make, but it was very much worth it. Alright, any questions on that before we get into camping skills? Because this is kind of a camping skills is a very different section of modding compared to enemies and affixes and loot tables. Anything you want me to repeat? No questions. Good. Hopefully that means I'm explaining it well. Some of you are probably very new to modding. Some of you probably have some experience under your belt. So I'm trying to keep it at the lowest common denominator at the moment. Make sure everybody gets the information they need. For now, let's commit our changes, though they are small. Remember to select all because these are unversioned, and let's put Royal Affix Encounters. And there we go. Now for camping skills, you're going to find these in a very odd section under Raid, Camping, Default Camping Skills. And this, let's close everything else, by the way. We don't need any of that. Now this is where all of the camping skills for classes are defined. It's a very long file. I don't want that to intimidate you. It simply has all of the skills. But skills are very confined to an area. As we can see here with our Encourage, we simply have the ID, the level. There are no levels for camping skills, of course. They're all at 0 because you can't upgrade them. The cost, and the cost, of course, is in time at the campfire. The use limit, which is, as it sounds, the limit of how many uses you can have during a single hero and a single camp. Then the effects are defined here. We're going to skip that for a second, come to hero classes, and these are all the classes defined that will have this skill. And for the sake of these 3 immediate camping skills, all the heroes have them. And then upgrade requirements are all going to be the same. There is only 1 level, and they're all going to be the same cost. There are no prerequisite requirements. Say that 10 times fast. They're all going to be the same. So we don't really have to worry about this section at all. This is going to be copied for each and every camping skill you would want to add, and it's not going to be touched for any camping skills you may want to modify. But hero classes will be, of course, for things like field dressing is only available on the Arbalist and Musketeer, of course, so, you know, it doesn't have to get too. However, much like our buffs, the effects of a camping skill call a type and a subtype, and then give an amount. So we know that Stress Heal, from our creation of the Stress Heal potion, is the effect that's given, and then the amount is going to be 15. And I would simply say, if you want to know how to make a camping skill, look at how other ones work. There are some additional things you can only do in camping skills that you cannot do anywhere else. Up until recently, I believe, you could not cure just bleeding or blighting, which is called poison in the files. Very important to remember. You cannot cure them outside of camping skills. But I believe you can. They're just called something different. I think it's like cure DOT poison, cure DOT bleed. I know the flagellant has it. If you really want to see that, I can come in here, pull it up. I could have sworn that he has it down here. It steel buff stat type HP. I know someone has it. Well, it's somewhere. It's somewhere. I can look it up later, but it will not be like remove bleeding. So that's very important to keep in mind. Other things like heal health, max percent, these are all going to be calling buff types. And then, of course, if you want to call a specific buff, like we can see here with Pep Talk, simply put buff as the type, and then the subtype can be found within the buff itself, within the buffs file. We open up the buffs file and we just simply paste this code in. We can see the camping stress resist buff here, and these contain two sections that you won't find in other buffs, usually. The duration type and the duration. And this is simple. It simply says that the duration type is going to be the number of battles, or when a combat ends. And then it's going to be for combat. So this is how you define a buff as having, lasting more than however many rounds you defined within an effects file, or just simply being a default of 3 rounds. And there are multiple duration types. There are ones like quest end. We go past all of the camping ones. Let's see if there's duration. Let's just scroll past these for a second. Quest complete, of course, is until the quest is over. And then there's just combat end. I think you can put... There are other ones. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but there are other ones. And then this amount overrides whatever amount is set in the file. So you can just give any camping buffs a static number. It doesn't have to be anything important, because the amount that you define here overrides it. Are there any questions so far on these camping skills? Because we have to go over one more section. One more kind of important thing. I know there's a bit of a stream delay, so I'm just kind of waiting around. No questions so far. All right, we'll continue then. So camping skills have a multiple variety of selections. As you know, certain skills can Hey Jolie, welcome. And you told me how to pronounce that correctly last time. You're gonna have to remind me. We're working on camping skills. We're going over the selections. So first aid on all characters, of course, applies to an individual that isn't the self. And you can see here that the selection is individual. But there are other ones. There are selection self, and there are selection party other, which means all other party members. And then there is actually one for party, and that selects the entire party. I don't recall which ones. You can see party. Crazy. I remember you told me last time what it was. Now requirements is a special section that you can do based on like death's door debuffs or heart attack debuffs. I know the Crusader off the top of my head definitely has requirements. Right. Pass it. I didn't. Here. So we can see Zealous Vigil requires an affliction. That's right, Jolie Fee. I'll have to remember that. We can see very simply, if you want to have other requirements, you can just search the entire thing for different ones, or just if off the top of your head you remember, like Vestal has one, so we can type Vestal, pop down to hers, and we should see her religious and not religious requirements, and has Death's Door recovery buffs for Sanctuary. So that's a simple one you can use to create other to create ones that require certain attributes on a character. Now lastly, we have this chance and this code. And this is very important. It doesn't look important, but it's incredibly important that your code are in order based on the letters. As you can see, A, B, and C here. And it's very, very important that you don't, while you're copying your code, forget to set those. Because if you do, you will have incorrect camping skills, and you'll be sitting there wondering why they don't work when all the buffs seem correct and the codes are simply not correct. Very annoying, but it happens. Just make sure that when you're doing that, that you make sure to keep those in order and that you have no duplicates. And then the chance amount is simply the chance for it to happen. 1 is a float value, meaning that it is a decimal representation of a percentage. So 1 as a decimal representation of a percentage is simply 100%. And there are very few skills with less than 1%, mainly because the percentages work a little oddly, as you can see here. The percentages aren't, it has a 75% chance to do this, and then if it doesn't, it'll do this. They are individual percentage chances, so Gallows Humor actually does have a chance to not do either of these two effects. Very small, considering that it does these on all other party members, and the percentage is rolled for each of them, but there is a small chance that none of these additional things will happen. We're going to simply come in here and we're going to change, we're just going to add like a stress heal debuff to encourage as well, or stress healing bonus. So encourage not only will heal the stress amount, but it's going to increase the amount of stress healing that a character receives. And I don't think that there's any camping skills that do that at the moment. So we're going to come into our buffs, and we're going to look for stress heal received percent. Perfect. So this is the amount of stress healing that is received by the user. And we're going to come in here, we're going to copy this, and then come over to our mod buffs, and put this at the bottom. And we're going to put, let's keep it in line with others. Let's do camping, stress heal received, and we don't have to do B1 because it's simply going to be a kind of a dummy buff. You know, this amount doesn't matter, it's going to be overridden anyway. But we also want to come in here, we want to search for camping and make sure that we get these two modifiers and paste them in. So we can come back over here then, and if we find one of our buffs, we're just going to copy it. And remember to put a comma there. And change the code. Now let's copy our ID. And let's put a buff of 33%. And that's simply all that's required to change this camping skill. So we're going to come back out. We just changed the modded game, by the way. I did recommend that we don't do, because I kind of got sidetracked. I'm going to paste this in. We don't need that. We're going to come in here. I'm going to delete that. And we're going to revert this for the moment, just so that, you know, it's good practice just to make sure that we aren't putting any changes in. And we're not actually going to be overwriting the default camping skills. We're going to be creating our new one. I believe we can simply come in here and change this to r_mod camping skills. All right, perfect. Now I want to delete everything except for the encourage. Now I'm a little worried because this does share the same name that it's actually going to cause troubles with the existing encourage. I don't think it'll overwrite it, but we'll see. You're going to do, have you done a tutorial on creating completely new moves? For enemies, I will be going over that. For heroes, probably not. But we are going to be creating new enemies, so we will be working on new attacks. However, on stream 8, we do have viewer suggestions. I could work on simply creating a copy of like a hero ability and replacing it, you know, with a new one. Of course, that gets a little tough because I don't have access to, you know, creating new animations or effects or even sounds at the moment. So, you know, it's going to be kind of just, here's how you can create a copy of an existing move, or like give a hero a different one. So it won't be as kind of as amazing as we might want. So now that we've changed camping skill and buffs, let's come back over and paste them in. For this, I'm going to start it up to the town. And I have, I did say that this might not work, that you might want to just overwrite the vanilla file if you're going to change a vanilla camping skill. As we can see here, it is definitely the case. So let's come back to our mod and change this back to default camping skills. Let's come into our game here and get rid of the default camping skills. Actually, our normal one, not the default. And I'm simply going to Control-C this. Actually, I'm going to copy this. Paste the vanilla back into our modded change. And then paste our change. And that's good to know. That's good to know that we can't overwrite existing existing camping skills very easily. That's okay.
Welcome home, such as it is. This squalid hamlet, these corrupted lands. They are
So
yours
creating a
now,
copy of it.
and you are bound to them.
Why are there two encouragements? Who's doing this? What did we accidentally mess up here? should not be too. Oh, forgot to get rid of our mod one. Duh. All right, problem solved. All good. Now we can check, and it should be working completely fine.
Welcome home, such as it is. This squalid
And now they only have one. What did we mess up here? Pipeline. I know why. We did things backwards. Thankfully, a very simple fix to a very unfortunate. I've created some massive problems before with modding that I have rage quit modding over. Multiple days. Why is this doing this? Oh, that's why. That is exactly why. And that is how not to properly fix a file. So we can mark that off of our list of things to do. Just kidding. That was an honest mistake of me just being stupid and thinking that I fixed the problem when I did. All right. So pretend none of that happened. Now we have our minus 15 stress and plus 33% stress healed. Now vanilla tooltips are a little weird. Mainly because they it says stress healed, however it is actually stress healing received. I don't know why they have that in vanilla, because it's very confusing. It makes it seem like it's stress healing done when it's actually just stress healing received. We can actually change that too if we want it. It's not too necessary, but just know that that is actually stress healing received, and it should work just as normal. We can test it actually by coming in here. Our proof. And we're going to give a firewood and some provisions, just temporarily. And if we load up our monster here, I'm simply just going to create a skeleton common A. We should actually load up with our potions and with our firewood now. After we kill this this common skeleton here really quickly. There we go. So we now have our firewood and our food, and hopefully one of these guys is encouraged. Okay, they mostly do. And we can test our remedy of resolve on a hero. So I'm gonna camp, which we actually have to get into another room to do quickly. Hopefully there's no fight in here. Cool. So we can do a fire. I don't want to heal any stress though, because we want to apply our encourage. And we'll have 33 stress healed now. We can actually use this in camp, and we should see a greater than 15 number pop up. Oh, it's only 5. That's right. It's not like health. Alright, I can solve that. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of dev cheating though. That should be easy. Alright, a little bit of dev cheating. We're gonna stress this guy the hell out. Perfect. We're gonna come over here, camp. Not worry about enemies. We're gonna camp again. Heal nothing. And hopefully someone can encourage him. Nobody has encourage? Are you kidding me right now? Alright, I can't dev command that one. So we're gonna have to load it up again. Thankfully, we're a little bit behind. We haven't been streaming too long, so we can take a little bit of extra time to get this sorted out. Silvio Maggot, also welcome, Bastion. God, those tutorial pop-ups. If I had $1 for every time a tutorial pop-up happened, I'd be rich. Alright. So hopefully somebody has encourage. Alright, our Plague Doctor does have encourage. Let's stress out our A-bomb again. I'll do it just before the point of affliction. We'll heal no stress. We'll encourage him. He has 78, and this healed 20. So you can see that that buff absolutely applied, because otherwise that would have just healed a static 15. So we know our buff is working, and it actually works along with our new potion that will be dropping from Courtiers when the time comes, and that's it's perfect. So our camping skill change does work. Making a new camping skill is very similar, but of course you need to keep in mind that you will probably have to overwrite the default file whenever you do change an existing camping skill, and that will not be compatible with any other mods that adjust camping skills, unfortunately. However, if you're making a new character, new hero, you can make your own camping skill file and just copy the default 3 but only apply it for your new hero. We can come up here and let's commit our camping skill changes. Go. And let's do courage, camping skill, change, dash, added stress, C, buff. Go. Problem solved. And one thing I don't remember if we did prior to, well, with our last stream, I have my stream overview here. We created the loot drop tables. Or let's close all these. Why don't you see anything? Why are you still seeing stuff? Why is it not? I didn't press. Oh, that's right, I did. I got in trouble last stream for pressing the numpads, and then I can't even. Not even gonna get into it. What did you miss? Just tell me what you missed. I'll fix that. And I need to apparently set different hotkeys for my stream. I'll have to do more. While you're telling me so let's do. Won't happen. Missed everything. All right. Let me think about it. Oh, yep. You missed the. Okay, that's fine. We'll show it. We'll show it. All good. Problem solved. Sorry, YouTube. Sorry, Twitch. Never said I was an expert at that. Joke's on you. I was actually just seeing if you guys were still paying attention. Got ya. Let me turn this off. I don't want to hear the spamming of things. Alright. It won't happen again. I can do my dev magic and it won't switch scenes. I want to make sure one of these guys has encourage. Okay. So we have encourage. And what our plan was to do was to stress out our A-bomb here, which we will do right at the next room, because we have to camp in the next room, of course. He's already getting stressed out in his own here. We're going to stress him out using Dev Magic. We're going to camp. And we're going to apply our new camping skill, Courage, which now, as you can see, not only heals stress, but applies a stress healing received buff to our A-bomb. And he now has 74 stress. Now our potion, the Remedy of Resolve, relieves 15 stress on the hero. But because he has this bonus stress healing buff, he's going to not heal just 15, he's going to heal 20. Which you saw flash there. And he now has 54. So we know our camping skill does work. Yeah, that's pretty much what you missed while I accidentally had pressed one of my hotkeys to switch scenes, which won't happen again anymore because I changed them to be multiple key hotkeys. So even though last stream I said that they wouldn't happen again, they did happen again, and now they definitely won't. Can't promise they will not happen again. Alright, so we committed our changes, of course, as per usual, with the message of encourage camping skill change, add a stress healing receive buff. So we're all good. But we did some things last stream. Now we can get on to what we were talking about. We added the loot tables for our courtier and our bloodletter. But we now know how to apply these. It's perfect. So we're going to actually come into our modded game here, and we're going to copy the folders for the skeleton courtier and the brigand bloodletter. Come back to our mod and paste these in, and just like our militia, we're going to get rid of the animation and effects, and we're also going to get rid of the tint and art because we are not creating affixes with these. We are simply modifying the loot tables, so we don't need these files, and they will just cause bloat with our mod size. We want to keep our mod size as low as possible, and also to keep the mod as compatible with other mods as possible by not adjusting files that we don't change. Let's come back to our brigand bloodletter. I'm just moving it over so that I can quickly open up files here, and we're going to open up the courtier info files. And this should be fairly simple. We're going to copy the bloodletters, loot, and paste this potion bloodletter in. Remember, we only want one, so make sure that count is 1. And we're going to paste this in for each version. And we're going to do the exact same thing with the courtier, but with the courtier's loot table. Perfect. You can see those are all set up. We already have the loot tables made. Let's come over here to our mod again, and we're going to copy the monsters folder and paste it. And then come into our monster creation thing. And I'm going to type in skeleton courtier A and brigand bloodletter, or brigand blood A. And that should give us a apprentice courtier and an apprentice bloodletter. And just for the sake of keeping time, I'm just gonna use some dev magic to pop them here. And there we go. We have our Berserking Brew and our Remedy of Resolve have both dropped. And they are obeying our stack limits, as you can see. So very simply now, any bloodletter or courtier that is killed in our mod will drop one of our new potions. Which is awesome. And the final potion that we created, the the trinkets that we made, we still have the sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Our trinket skeleton we are going to use on Friday with the new enemy we're creating. So we have these files set up, but we are not using them yet, of course. We have the table set up. So let's come in here and let's commit this final change for today. And we're going to put courtier and bloodletter potion loot tables. Perfect. So now our repo is up to date, and we have covered everything on today's stream. Again, I apologize for the audio glitches. I'm going to do the one last thing that I think is causing it, fix it, hopefully it won't occur after that. And I do apologize for switching scenes within the middle of the stream there. Neither is intended. Are there any questions before we cover the next stream's schedule? While I take a drink. Actually, my drink is completely empty, so it's good timing. And if there are no questions, we will go over Stream 5, which of course is happening this Friday at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, as with the other streams. So on Friday, we will be creating yet another affix, the inspirational affix, which is a bit more complicated in some ways than the royal, but still pretty easy to make. We will be adding lore to the game, which will appear in the form of journal pages. And I probably will provide just some already written PBD lore if you just, want something quick to copy and paste into your game, or into your mod, I should say. We will be adding a town event, but we will not be, it won't be appearing yet. It'll simply be a dummy one because that town event that we create is actually going to be used for our map. And we will be creating an entirely new enemy. I do not have art or animation. I will simply be explaining that if you already have new art or animation, how you can go about creating an enemy on the data and design side of things. So it will simply just be a copy of like the skeleton, or like the skeleton captain, with some new moves, some modified stats, because we're going to be using that as our summonable enemy. But we'll be going over more of that on Stream 5. I just wanted to give you a quick overview. I know what we covered today was kind of simple, but it's going to be very useful. We're going to be using encounters and our enemy information later, even more. So thank you again for showing up. Again, if you want to join our Discord, the link is below the stream. If you need links to the modding assets, if you're just catching this today, but you want to catch the older ones, the link is available with exclamation point links. Or if you're watching on YouTube, it's below the video in the description, and also along with the Discord link below there. So thank you again for showing up, and take care. I will stay around for another like 30 seconds just in case you have any last minute questions or concerns about something. Please feel free to voice them now, or hold them until stream 8, when I will be doing a Q&A and taking viewer suggestions. But if there aren't any, thank you for showing up, and have a wonderful rest of your day.